Um, Hello, everyone. I'm Youth Shepherd Suvin Nath, and today I'll be sharing my experience of participating in the English translation of the Living Life Bible study and the many important revelations that came to me through this. So, to be honest, I really dreaded starting Living Life because I was really dealing with a lot of personal issues, and I was also going through another Bible study at church at the same time, meaning that all my days were very busy. I also it also felt like it came at the worst possible time in my life. But however, I realized that this Bible study is what got me through the hardest point of my life, and I want to share that today. So over this year, I already thought that I was really strong in my faith because I'd already read the whole Bible and studied it on my own. But I realized that Satan gave me this heart to begin with, to fill me up with pride so that I couldn't ask for help when I needed it. And so I spiraled out into a major burnout and really distanced myself from others because I was so prideful. For the first few weeks of Living Life, I was juggling with many relationship issues while serving as a shepherd, serving in many ministries at church, and I started serving a lot at school, preparing many school events and Christian groups outside of church. All this work I was doing felt more and more like a chore, and I was serving so many people, and it led me to read the Bible less and pray for myself less because there was a long, burdensome list of people I had to pray for, things that had to be done, and it just felt like more of a routine that I really dreaded doing every day. I also began to judge other people a lot because I felt like people at church couldn't understand that I had responsibilities at school, and I felt like people at school couldn't understand that I had responsibilities at church. For example, I would have to skip a lot of school events to come to church, and then people at church would say, "Oh, you're not putting in enough effort at church," and it just made me I really felt like really alone in that time, and this meant. Yeah, I was blaming a lot of people for missed opportunities at church and at school. And I realized that God wouldn't have been pleased with me serving with that heart. Our first lesson on living life was on God's love, and it really helped me understand the simplicity of God's love. All He asked was for me to love Him and to love others in the process. How simple is that? He never asked me to serve or to pick up all these responsibilities to the point of burnout, but rather He would have been more pleased with me standing still and just being joyful in my salvation alone. I'd previously been feeling like God would be mad at me if I laid down any responsibilities, but I was also crying myself every night to sleep from all the stress, and I wasn't eating properly, and I was just so full of anger and hatred for myself throughout that time, and I feel like God really didn't want me to be like that. He just wanted me to be joyful in Him. He wanted me to know that He was right there the whole time and that I could lay down all those burdens to Him at any point. And many more revelations like this came to me every week at Living Life. One lesson, Pastor Choi told us to pray here in the hall for about at least 20 minutes. And as I prayed here, for the first time I asked God to talk to me rather than for me to ask Him for many things or pray for my long list of prayers. So I asked Him, just give me an answer for all this pain. Why am I doing all this to the point where I hate myself so much and I'm serving so many people and I don't feel any encouragement from anyone? And I was breaking at that point. I always yearned for a compliment from someone, and I realized that I only was doing it for other people's recognition and not for God. Every time I picked up a task, every time I picked up more responsibilities, I just wanted some people in my life to encourage me or compliment me for that. And the more that people didn't, the more that I hated myself. I believe that this stems from the insecurity of my own faith. This is because before I met Christ, as a lot of you may know, I was not the best person, and there were a lot of things that held me back from my past. And I just wanted people to forget my past so badly that I would pick up more and more tasks and try to make myself look like a good Christian so that people would forget about my past. But the more people brought up my past, the more that I would put on more roles and towards myself, and was serving people to make them view me more of a better Christian, I guess. And so I felt as a very sensitive person, these insecurities kept building up and imploded on me as I distanced myself from everyone because I felt like no one in my life truly cared enough. And I felt so trapped in my own body and my life that many nights I just wanted to run away from everything, run away from the church, run away from school, run away from everything going on in my life. And I didn't have anyone to tell this to. So I was falling deep into a depression and full of loneliness. And I kept asking God all the time, why was me, a faithful Christian, doing so much work for Him, but I was also dealing with this pain? However, the next Living Life lesson was on victorious living, and this was the lesson that really stuck in my heart throughout this time. The verse that comes from it is, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." And this is from Hebrews 12:11. All the sufferings I endured through as a child and in my teenage years were still scars in my heart that I tried to hide from everyone. I never understood why God allowed for those times in my life, and that's why I never opened up to people about it. And I didn't, where am I up to? I don't know where I'm up to. So then the next day I went to school, and someone approached me at school and asked me to share my testimony at a women's discipleship night. And I asked her, like, "Why are you asking me? I don't even know you." And she said that when she was praying, a clear name stuck in her head, and that was my name. And I realized that this was the point where God was telling me, I'm going to produce a harvest of righteousness through my discipline. And this was the time. This was the time that I needed to look upon at the back of to my past that I had been so ashamed of. I need to look back on it, and I need to use this for the glory of his kingdom. I didn't prepare anything that night when I went up to share my testimony in front of all those people. But instead, I prayed before I went up and asked the Holy Spirit to speak through my mouth in that time. As I detailed through my life's most traumatic events, things that I've never told anyone before, I looked around the crowd and people were either shocked or crying. However, I didn't cry that whole time. I felt a rise of God's presence, and I smiled brightly as I said, "I'm thankful for all of this. I'm thankful for the abuse I suffered. I'm thankful for all the people who've put me to the bottom of my life. And I'm thankful that I've been through all of this, because I can now confidently say that only Jesus Christ has saved me. I can confidently forgive anyone because I have been forgiven. I can confidently say to the girl who suffers the way that I did that I can understand her, and I can comfort her in the ways that I wanted to be comforted. Instead of being mad at God for all that I've been through, I was now thankful. And this was the hope that reached to the many people that night. And I don't need other people's validations when I serve, because all I need is God's acceptance, and that's what saved me. No amount of compliments or encouragement from the world would save me, because God already has saved me and accepted me for who I am. I used to look at other people's lives in jealousy, thinking that everyone else had it so much more easier than me, and I blamed God a lot for it throughout my life and even through this year. But now I realize that God loves me so much that he entrusted me through all of that. He entrusted me through all that time because he knew that he could use my past to harvest righteousness in other people's lives. As I look at how I've been put in positions of leadership in school and at church, I realized that it was God showing his love to me. I realized that this time was needed for me to learn. I looked back on my prayers, my past prayers of wisdom and discernment. I asked God, show me wisdom, show me how to live in a discerning way in my life. And then I looked back on those prayers and I realized that if you pray for flowers, don't be surprised when God gives you rain, because he uses the hard times in your life to provide you with that wisdom. I'm now able to serve in many areas purely because I want to be part of restoring God's kingdom on earth. I want to do it all for God and not for any compliments. And I do not want to do it with any complaints any longer. This is because I'm able to prioritize my faith. And when I put my faith purely in God, everything else will follow. This is because faith comes first and then works. God is pleased with me staying still and knowing that he is in control of everything. And that is why I urge you all to participate in the Living Life Bible study, because you need to reflect on your own faith to serve God. And I was able to have a good time of healing and answers provided to me throughout this time. And I now rejoice in knowing that we have all been healed and saved in Jesus. Thank you for listening. God bless.